Want to give a big shout out today to our sponsor, Fire Mountain Residential Treatment Center, located in Colorado at the foot of the Rockies. It is a spectacular program. I encourage you to check them out at firemountainprograms.com. Their inpatient program is focused on providing the coping skills and tools that our young people need so when they complete the program. It's all about sobriety, it's about wellness, and them transitioning back to their environment and living the life that they truly deserve. And as we get towards the close of another year, I'm really excited about today's episode that's focused really for helpers, those of you that are teachers, that are educators, that are in the medical field, your parents, whatever. There's so many of us that are under that umbrella of helpers that are running low when it comes to the end of the year. And today is all about focusing on and challenging ourselves with self-care. Where are we with our own boundaries? Where are we with maintaining our own mental health? What a perfect time this is. And I'm really proud of this episode, as well as if you're kind of on the fence right now, we're at the tail end of Hanukkah, only a few weeks away from Christmas, for finding that perfect gift for someone that you really care about. I really encourage you to hop on Amazon.com, check out my 2 books, Peace, Love, and Goodness, Lessons from the Drug Lady, as well as A Higher Level of Goodness, Lessons from the Drug Lady. Both are pieces of literature that I'm very proud of, but focusing on self-care, focusing on wellness, focusing on living life to its fullest. I think sometimes we get in ruts, we're running a little low, and kind of getting things that can kind of kickstart us. Now's a perfect time for that. Check it out on Amazon.com. And I really hope you enjoyed today's episode, my friends. Today's episode, very excited to have with me a wonderful human being, Kalix Jacobson, who is a student in the Cantor program at Hebrew Union College in Jerusalem. We had the privilege of meeting a few days ago, and I was very intrigued by your passion, your positivity, and I was kind of from the rooftop saying I wanted to have you as a guest on today's episode. I'm very grateful, first of all, for your patience, because our first run through was absolutely amazing, but it didn't record. So life happens, and here we are. But
life happens. Absolutely, we talked about this in the first thing. Stuff happens. Just let it go.
It does. It could definitely be worse. But I wanted to talk a little bit about, first of all, the program that you're in, how it is part of in the helping field. And why you're pursuing going to be in the Cantor field. And if you could explain to people what that is, that would be wonderful.
Sure. So being a Cantor, in kind of terms that a lot of people are aware of, it's kind of like going into the music ministry for Jews. So basically, you're leading services, you're taking care of all the music for the different things that are happening in the synagogue or wherever you are, but also being a Cantor, you get a master's in sacred music through the program I give, and then you also get ordained. But we also work in nonprofits. We also do chaplaincy. We do all sorts of stuff. You can find a Cantor in just about any role in Jewish life, but primarily we work with the music end of things. So we do have a master's in music by the time we're out of it, and our work is primarily focused on music and Jewish music theory and the modes and all of these things. Very fun.
Okay, very fun. Very intense. Yeah.
What?
Very intense program.
Very intense. Yeah, we're in school like 8:30 to 5 a lot of days. There's a lot, especially for the Cantors. We have a lot of other things we have to do, concerts and recordings and auditions and things like that. So we're always going. And it was funny because everyone told me from a very young age that I was going to be a Cantor. Like the age of 3, I started performing publicly. And I didn't think it was going to happen at all. I wanted to be a choir director from a young age. I actually ended up starting to go to school for it. And the same semester I started, I watched the market completely fall off. And everyone who wasn't tenured that I knew in the field lost their job, or went down to part-time to negligible. It wasn't something that was a sustainable field to go into. And so I decided, I started an associate's degree while I was in high school, and I decided to finish that degree and then eventually get a bachelor's in business. I ended up minoring in music, but I did do my undergraduate studies in business. But I thought I would probably end up working at a nonprofit or something like that. But what happened was when I was 19, my best friend from the first college I went to lost her family in a very tragic way. And I ended up going and helping her arrange the funerals and be there for her and be there for her family and this kind of thing. I ended up singing at this funeral. And I had this like moment of realization, you know, I'm singing a secular song in a Lutheran church to people I don't know. And I'm realizing that it's helping them somehow. And I realized that if I can do this for a group of strangers, I should do this for my community personally. So I decided to get the ball rolling, and then a couple of years later, here I am.
Right. And it's a total, the program itself is 5 years in length, correct?
5 years, that is correct. So the first year, everyone in the program, whether you're a rabbi or a cantor, we're in Jerusalem. And then for the final 4 years, you're either in New York, that's where all the cantors are, and then or Cincinnati or LA.
Okay. So it's a very rigorous program. And I know, you know, when I had the privilege of speaking to your class the other day, kind of breaking down what your day looks like is intense, is kind of very much an understatement. And so one of the topics we got into was about self-care. And really where you kind of popped in my mind, not only were you engaging big time, but just your passion and just kind of like, you know, connected with me and thinking how interesting it is to talk to somebody who's now you're in a program on the way to long-term, really just helping people essentially for the rest of your life, and how self-care right now, how does that play a role for you personally? And then how do you see it personally and professionally in the long run? Because I think that's something we just lack in so many areas.
Yeah, I mean, something that was said a lot in the meeting that we had with my colleagues, we had a meeting with the education, rabbinical, and cantorial students that was open. It was like a lunch meeting for those of you that are listening. And we talked a lot about self-care and boundaries. And something that was said by one of my classmates was that oftentimes the people that go into the helping fields need lots of help themselves, that they need their own, you know, methods of self-care. And like, it's kind of like, I have a friend from back home who has a master's in social work and she does therapy. And we were just talking about her therapist. You know, your therapist needs a therapist. Your rabbi needs a rabbi. You know, everyone needs someone. Your mentor needs to be the mentee also.
But do you think enough people know that though?
I don't think they do. I think they do. I feel like people are very prideful. I feel like people think they can do everything themselves. But there's a reason that it's said that it takes a village to raise a child. And it's not just to raise a child. It takes a village to do anything. You can't do anything alone.
Right.
And so I feel like the first step in setting up boundaries is knowing who you can turn to when you can no longer help. I had a third grade teacher, Cheryl Mayan, who's now the principal at the Mirowitz Day School in St. Louis, Missouri, say to me when I was in third grade, you know, I've been having trouble, and she said to me, Kalix, you know, the smartest people don't have all the answers, but they do know where to find them. And that's my educational motto and my personal motto, is that I'm not going to have all the answers, but I'm going to do my best to find them for you and find them for myself. Right. So having the hotlines, having the awareness of, you know, what resources are available. It's important to be, because you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't, if you are giving and giving and giving, you're going to run out of stuff to give.
Right.
So having that network, having that connection with people is important.
Is very important, especially when you're somebody, whether it's a cantor, whether it's a rabbi, whether I'm going to say a therapist, a teacher, being connecting and having 2 or 3 people that you can seek wisdom from. And I don't know if that's something that we dialogue enough about, that it's, to me, you're a stronger person when you seek out wisdom and insight from someone else. You seek out encouragement. And like you had said, you know, your friend, you know, who's a therapist has a therapist, and the rabbi needing a rabbi. We all need, if we're in a helping field and we're giving and we're giving and we're giving and not taking, there's something wrong there, because it's not selfish. It's refilling your cup. And
absolutely.
When we don't do that, where it's like us thinking that whether we're not worth it, we don't have time, or that's not part of our makeup, you know, because of our titles, we end up losing out, and we end up getting, I just think, utterly exhausted in the end. And
I've seen it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you know, you see these teachers, like I had a choir teacher in high school too, who were unbelievably dedicated. We had no money, we had no anything, and they put all of this time and energy into our choir program when we were nationally ranked many different times. And then now I see, especially one of those choir teachers finally starting to scale back and take time for himself and all that stuff. And while I'm like, oh, that's a loss for the choir program, I'm realizing, like, good for you. Good for you for realizing what you need and taking your step back. Like, it's not your obligation is to teach, you know, however many segments of choir a week. You don't have to be here on 7 p.m. on a Sunday to work with the jazz groups, which is what we did. You know, he would bring his son, and his son would hang out with all of us singing, you know, giant steps. And that would be his family time. And like, I respect him, and it's incredible all the work he did, but he deserves to have, you know, his break and his boundaries and all of that stuff. So it's hard to see.
Yeah, good for you for acknowledging it. I think I said good on you for acknowledging that, because I think sometimes for those who are accustomed, and people are accustomed to seeing them giving, doing, when they step back, people can be rough on the givers, where it's like, well, what do you mean they're not doing this project? What do you mean, you know, he's not going to be here with his kids? And well, because it's not healthy to be on the go all the time, kind of like on call. None of us as human beings, I don't care who you are, we're not designed to be able to do that. And so what I'm saying to you is, for somebody who's expressing, you know, that was great that he was able to do that. That was great that there was that step back to recharge, because not everybody understands that.
And some people get angry when people step back and take care of themselves. So you guys are listening to this as a podcast most likely, and if you guys are podcast junkies and interested in this topic, there's a wonderful podcast called Missing Richard Simmons, about the fitness instructor Richard Simmons, who kind of fell off the face of the earth a few years ago. It's a fabulous podcast talking about, you know, does Richard Simmons, who did all of this good stuff for humanity, does he have an obligation to continue doing good stuff for humanity, or does he deserve to like retreat and live his life? It's very fast. It's like 6 episodes. I would recommend to anyone to listen to it. It's a quick listen, but it touches very specifically on this topic.
Okay, I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah.
But
fascinating. It's so fascinating.
Mindset, like, you are supposed to do this. You're supposed to, and I've seen it as.
But what are we supposed to do?
Right, and I'm
you
like,
know what I mean?
Human. I mean, that doesn't make sense. So, what are you doing to continue to help? What are you doing to contribute? Not just these, you know, the small percentage of people that are giving constantly, because that's where people burn out and end up just burnt toast, you know. You can only take so much,
and that can mess with your mental health. It can mess with your physical health. It can mess with everything.
And your relationships.
It's not worth it.
Yes,
absolutely.
Worth it. And this is where I think it's so critical to dialogue when it comes to helpers in any field that's the helping field. It's okay to step back if it's that time, that season, or that chapter in your life. Give yourself permission. And just like you had mentioned before, you know, you're in a season of your life that you're like in a really intense program, but taking time for yourself to breathe, to get, you know, sleep and what, you know, so kind of sharing that with people. You're in such an intense program, but your self-care, what does that look like?
My self-care. So this is really important to me. I was talking about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs during our discussion earlier this week. And I think what's important is to start off with the basics. And I feel like people, when they think about self-care, they're like, oh, let's throw a bath bomb in a bath and call it a day, or let's read a book, or let's light a candle. And like, it's great in theory, but you have to be at a certain level of already in a good place before you can be like, I have 30 minutes to take a bath and read a book. And the first thing you have to do is nutrition, right? You have to eat well. And that's something that's really hard to do, especially when you're in a graduate program. And I see it all the time. You know, not all of us have time to go grocery shopping. And I see people, you know, we have a little cafe downstairs, and I see people go and buy whole bags of chips and, you know, hang around and eat them, like whole, like candy and chips and all that stuff. Not saying it's bad if it's in moderation, but it's not in moderation what I see. And, you know, I'm sitting over here with my cherry tomatoes and people are laughing at me. And I'm like, you know what, at the end of the day, my digestive health is better. So, so the first one is nutrition and taking care of your body. And that also includes exercise, which, like, I don't own a car here. I take the bus if it's a time constraint, but otherwise I walk. It's very important.
Right.
The second thing is just the hygiene and personal, and like, people don't think about this, but like, first of all, here we have to turn on the boilers to take a shower. There's not like a forever running like water heater, which is interesting. So like, remembering, like, when I get home, oh, let me turn on the boiler so I can take a shower before I go to bed. Something like that. And the third one is sleep. And this is something that's seriously neglected, especially in rigorous programs like mine. You know, I talk to my friends in the program and they're getting 5, 6, 7 hours of sleep a night. And like 7 isn't so bad, but for me, like, I'd really like to be at the low end, you know, 7 to And it's something that I prioritize. I will not go to, certain parties or certain events past a certain time if I need to sleep. And being okay with not doing other things, having the joy of missing out, understanding that, yeah, you may miss some things because you need to sleep, but at the end of the day, you're going to wake up refreshed and ready to take on the day. And that's more important than, going and getting a happy hour drink with someone or whatever the case may be.
Right. And
and it's a prioritization thing.
You would use a saying a bit ago that was, I think it was JOMO, something like that.
JOMO.
Yeah. And if you want to explain that, I thought that was awesome.
Yeah. So something relevant to this is that a few months ago, I deleted all of my social media. I've never liked social media. I had Facebook consistently, but I hadn't deleted Twitter, hadn't deleted Snapchat, hadn't deleted Instagram, hadn't deleted everything. But I didn't delete Facebook because I felt like I was obligated to keep it. People were telling me they were living vicariously through me. They wanted to know what's up. And then I realized, if you want to know what's up, call me.
Yeah.
And I'm not obligated to live my life for you. So I shut down my Facebook. And part of shutting down Facebook means not getting Facebook invites to parties anymore, or not getting Facebook invites to this, that, or the other. And I realized if someone really wants to invite me to a party, they're going to go out of their way to text me. They're going to email me, whatever the case may be. And so I realized that if I miss something, I'm not upset about it. I'm joyful because I was doing something that I wanted to do. Instead of FOMO, fear of missing out, I have JOMO, joy of missing out.
I love that. I just want to make like a t-shirt. JOMO, got my JOMO. But it's missing out, I think, is such a great concept that it's okay. I think social media has kind of done that to us, that it's wired us to think, I've got to be everywhere, like with all the invites and the events and the stimuli and the going, and it's okay to just be disconnected or just to breathe and sit at home on your couch, watch TV and unwind and not be constantly going, and kind of bringing it back to what you were talking about that I think is so important, but is so something we don't talk about enough or apply enough to our lives, are those three basic needs, which is, you're talking about what we eat. And I, one of the things I've really been struggling with the past almost 6 months we've been on the road, my nutrition is such a high priority to me. It's been a really big struggle. One of the things that it connects with for me, my mental health, I feel funky. I definitely don't feel as good as I did 6 months ago when I was eating 3 square meals a day. I wasn't eating a lot of carbs or sugar. And it goes hand in hand with your mental health. And it's loving yourself enough to say, what am I putting in my body? And loving yourself enough to say, you know what, dude, I'm going to get 8 hours of sleep instead of feeling obligated to go to this thing that I'm kind of on the wall, fence about, and going and sleeping and resting and napping. Because I think we're going all the time and we're tired all the time and burning the candle all the time. And that's not how we were intended to live. And especially if we're helpers intending to help other people and we're doing that, burning the candle at both ends, you're not effective. You're just not. And you could think you are, but you're not. You know what I'm saying? And I just think it's such a valuable thing, especially, with your class, you guys are literally getting ready, to be for the rest of your lives, or until you're called to. You're helping people, but self-care is so critical with that. And as are the boundaries, as our boundaries.
Yeah. And I feel like it's something that's so neglected in helping fields. But it's something that I appreciate about the denomination I'm in and the religion I'm in. It's very common for professionals in this religion to take a sabbatical of 3 months to a year on a regular basis, which is amazing, obviously, to know that you can take a 3 month. It's not always a vacation. A lot of times people are pursuing other degrees. People are doing research projects, whatever. But to have 3 months where you're focusing on yourself rather than focusing on the community, or a year, or whatever the case may be, it's an incredible job perk. And something that's really important to me, because I know for a fact that I want to go back and get my nonprofit management degree from this same institution, but it's 2 summers. Right. So I know that one day I'll take 2 summer sabbaticals and I'll get the degree. I also want to get a music therapy degree, most likely. I'm getting a master's in sacred music through this program, so I know I can parlay it into another music master's. And just knowing that I have the support of the community and the encouragement of the community to take care of myself is a huge reason why I feel comfortable going into this field that's so focused on helping others, because the people in the community are so willing to let you help yourself.
Well, you're valued. That says you're valued. If they're giving you that time,
for sure.
Your title, you're important enough that we know for you to be able to be sustaining through the next 25, 30, 40, 50 years, you got to take time for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, but it would be easy to even do like, okay, you get these 3 months, and if you don't let yourself, you could still be burning the candle at both ends and not taking time for yourself. You know, so it's something, no matter who you are and what field you're in, there's power, man, there's power in self-care. That also, like you had said before, those 3 basic needs, I think most of us can work on, you know, have a room that we can kind of like strengthen. And as we're kind of on the heels of very close to the end of another year, which is crazy, the end of 2018,
crazy,
right? I'm like, that went quick. Taking time to say, okay, we've got another few weeks. It's not about now. What are you going to do next year? What are you going to do to take care of yourself better? What are you going to do to strengthen those boundaries? And for anyone listening that's a teacher, you know, a rabbi, a pastor, a firefighter, a medic, so many helpers. What are you doing to take care of yourself? Because you look at, you know, all these, I've read so many articles recently with people in the helping field that are just hurting with depression, anxiety, self-harm, you know, just on tons and tons of medication. And I'm not bashing medication at all, but it's like we're so, I think helpers get fizzled. And when we don't know how as helpers to help ourselves and refill and recharge, we are on a road that's inevitably bound for just being in a funky spot that doesn't always turn out in a good way. And so, you know, when we're talking, I'm like getting recharged, that, you know, your focus is so, I think, on the mark. I'm like, on the mark, man, you are on the mark, which is awesome. But we need to talk more about this. We need to talk more about it, because we do have so many people who are just at the end of the year now, and they're thinking, I'm barely hanging on. I'm white knuckling, and life is too short for that. You know,
absolutely,
life is too short to be white knuckling, and I'm just hanging on. It's okay to reach out, like you had said, rabbi to rabbi, you know, and counselor needing a counselor. We all need somebody. We all need somebody to talk to. And to me, that says you're a stronger person. You're a wiser person when you know you got the green light. It's okay to talk to somebody. And what do you say about that, if I were to throw that at you?
What, if I should talk to somebody?
No,
as a helper?
As you as kind of you're a helper now, but a you know, long-term helper. How do you view this for yourself and other helpers? I mean, I want to scream from the rooftops, you know?
Well, I feel like at the end of the day, we have to realize that we are just as large of a priority as the communities we help, if not larger, because we can't help communities if we can't help ourselves.
Right.
So
that's
doing what you need to do, taking the, you know, like trying to figure out, you know, when is my time that I'm going to be able to exercise today? When am I going to be able to make a healthy, you know, meal prep for the week? How can I help myself so I can help others? And it's going to look different for all of us. It's absolutely going to look different for all of us. You know, there are some people who are really into like yoga, and I'm not, you know, we've talked about like we can't do yoga, but like there are people who are into CrossFit, and there are people who are into journaling, and there are people who are into making podcasts and YouTube videos, and that's what helps them. And it's finding what you love and what makes you a better version of yourself, and doing that, even if it's just for a little time every day.
Right. And I think it's getting excited about that, because, you know, I've talked with people of all different ages and said, you know, what's your high in life? What's your natural high? What's your recharge? And how many people will look at me just kind of like staring, like, I don't have one, and then feel bad about it. Don't feel bad about it. Allow it, instead flipping how you look at it, like get excited. What am I going to see? Finding something that I enjoy doing. Maybe that's yoga. Maybe that's pottery. Maybe that's cooking. Maybe that's journaling. Like, make it something that gets you excited, trying different things. And to me, when you find it might be one thing, it might be 4 things. You need to find something that lets you just, and works for you. I know for me, when I'm outside, literally, I can go outside for 10 minutes. I feel different. If I have the time, for my ultimate stoke is going out and surfing without anybody around me. I just want to be out in the ocean. I don't get that all the time. So settling's not the right word, but just being out in nature or writing. Everybody is different. Everybody's going to find their their niche when it comes to what it is that relaxes them, that gets them stoked, and I think it's such a critical thing.
It is. It really is.
And one of the things, as we're kind of winding down here a little bit, that I loved about what you talked about before, in terms of honesty and the power of positivity. I'm going to ask you to use that phrase and describe it for me.
Yeah, the radical positive honesty. So this is a practice I keep with everyone, with myself, with my partners, with my friends. And that is that I don't censor myself if I think something positive about someone. So one example from earlier this year, I had been in this program for 2 months, 3 months. I had a Shabbat dinner at my friend's house. It was a meat meal, and in Judaism, meat and milk don't go together. It's against kosher laws. So we either have meals with meat or we have meals with dairy, and so you can only bring certain things to those meals. I'm a vegetarian. I've been a vegetarian for 7 years. So going to a meat meal and finding a vegan meal, a vegan option is wonderful. And my friend brought a vegan meal that night. And I had known her, a month or two, but I just thought she was brilliant and wonderful and all of this stuff. So, when she said it was her that brought the tofu dish, I said, thank you so much. I'm really glad that we're friends and colleagues and I can't wait to get to know you. Like, just because I felt like that was what I was feeling in the moment.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with the tofu. But she looked at me like, why? What are you, like, she couldn't believe that I was saying this to her. And it's because, like, we forget that we have to tell people we love them. We forget that it's important to share connections with people and let people know how we really feel about them. If I like someone's outfit, I'm going to tell them. If I like someone's presentation, or like in my circles, if I like the service they just gave or the Devar Torah they gave, like the talk about the Bible portion of the week, I'm going to tell them. And I think it's important. And practicing uncensored honesty, positive honesty with people, it allows you to create new connections. And then at the same time, it's kind of playing the long game, right? Because if you're creating positive relationships with other people, they're going to want to help you when you need help. They're going to want to help you recharge when you need something from them.
It's reciprocated.
It's reciprocatory, absolutely. And it's not that you're trying to get something out of it. It's that we all need each other. Mm-hmm. It's not. And for people who say, oh, you're all, being nice to someone just to get something back from them. No, that's not it. We're nice because we're nice and we're honest and we're positive because it helps us stay centered and balanced. And we're all going to be giving and taking at certain times. I'm not, sometimes you're going to be taken care of and sometimes you're going to be the one that's taking care. Mm-hmm. And creating that community and that connection with other people and allowing yourself to find people that you're comfortable with like that. It allows you to, when you are in those moments of need, to be taken care of. Like, for example, I have some autoimmune issues, and earlier this year, my right knee went bad when I was 19, and earlier this year, my left knee went bad, so now I walk with a cane. Okay. And suddenly, I was, before I had my left knee go bad, I was climbing like 30 flights of stairs a day, going out of my way to walk extra, this kind of stuff. And I'm doing better now, months later, but, when it started, it was really bad. And I remember I had a friend who was so sweet. We were at a museum tour and my knee was just horrible, absolutely horrible. I was almost crying because I could barely walk around this museum tour. And she picked up a stool that she found and just silently, without saying a word, carried it from room to room to room of this museum so that I could sit. Didn't say anything to me, just did it. Those are the kind of connections you create with people when you're positive and honest with each other. Because that one day, because of this, I felt like when I gave my last service, I had her open the ark to see the Torah, because I felt like I should honor her because she honored me. It's a reciprocatory thing.
Mm-hmm. Which I think is beautiful and just like you explained, contagious and something that we need more of. And you had kind of mentioned a few minutes ago that how we hesitate to kind of convey these feelings that we have towards people. And I think too often a mentality we have is, and I've found with so many people over the years is, well, this person passed away and I wish I said this to them, or I wish they're sick and I wish I did. And we need to stop wishing and we need to start doing. And I think whether it's a pride or a discomfort, we are given certain people that we cross paths with in life. And I think that's a gift. And people do not know how you feel about them. We can make that assumption. We're more than likely incorrect in that assumption. I know that they love me. They know that I care about them. They know They don't. And so using
They
these
don't.
words that I think have such power to just change, if not their day, so sometimes their year and their outlook on things altogether. Where when's the last time somebody told you, your outfit's awesome, you did a phenomenal job in that project, or I appreciate you, and like fill in the blank. And it's funny when we kind of get in that mindset, we begin to make that a part of our dialogue. It becomes fluid and more easily said, and it becomes contagious. And to me, man, there's so much negativity in the world, and a way that we can kind of squelch that a little bit is being more, just so radically honest in our positivity with the people around us. I think is such a beautiful thing that plays a role in our mental health, with our self-care. It all goes hand in hand.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I want to say, thank you truly from the bottom of my heart for joining me today. I want to
My
say,
pleasure.
yeah, for your focus, your passion, and I hope we're able to kind of keep in contact over the years to see, where life leads you in the hearts and lives that you touch. And for those of you that are listening, we approach the beginning of a new year and the end of another. It's a new chapter. What are ways to begin this new chapter in taking care of yourself? You are worth it. You are worth it. You're worth it. Don't just keep it in your head. Write it down. Get excited. What are some ways to become absolutely radically honest about the other people around you, encouraging them? Because I will promise you, it will encourage you. As time goes on, it will lift you up. It will make you feel less negative. It will be life-changing. And life is too short to not allow yourself to be saturated in positivity, taking time to care and love yourself. And know from the bottom of my heart, I say this, you are worth it. Peace, love, and goodness, my friends.